Have you ever stopped to ask yourself this simple question? Why do some people rise while others remain stuck in the same place their whole lives? The answer is not talent, it's not luck, it's not even opportunity. The difference lies in the way they think. The world outside may look the same for two people, but the world inside their mind is completely different, and that makes all the difference. Think about this for a moment. Every single choice you've ever made in your life, big or small, started as a thought. The decision to wake up early or stay in bed, the decision to keep going when things got hard or to quit, the decision to speak up or to stay silent, everything begins in the mind. And here is the truth most people never realize. If your thoughts are weak, your life will be weak. If your thoughts are strong, your life will be strong. Your mind is not just a tool, it is the foundation of your entire reality. When your thoughts are negative, the world feels heavy. When your thoughts are positive, the same world suddenly feels full of possibilities. Two people can face the same challenge. One sees an obstacle, the other sees an opportunity. What makes the difference? Correct thinking. But here's the catch. Your thoughts don't just appear out of nowhere. They are shaped by your habits, your environment, your beliefs, and the words you repeat to yourself every single day. Human psychology tells us that the brain cannot distinguish between truth and repetition. If you keep telling yourself that you are not enough, the brain believes it. If you tell yourself that you are capable, strong, and unstoppable, the brain believes that too. So ask yourself, what story are you repeating in your mind? Because whether you realize it or not, that story is writing your future. If you keep feeding your mind with doubt, then doubt will grow. If you feed it with courage, courage will grow. The mind works like soil. It doesn't care what seed you plant, it will grow whatever you give it. Plant negativity, reap failure. Plant strength, reap success. Most people live their entire lives without realizing this. They think life is unfair. They think success is random. But the truth is, the mind is the starting line for every journey. Change the way you think, and you change the way you live. This is why correct thinking is not just important, it is everything. Now imagine this, what if from today you decided to control the thoughts you allow in your mind? What if you stopped giving space to doubt and fear, and started giving space to clarity and purpose? Your entire life would begin to shift. Your energy would rise, your confidence would grow, your actions would become stronger, because your mind would finally be aligned with your true potential. And here is where psychology gives us a powerful advantage. The brain is trainable. Just like a muscle, it can grow, it can adapt, and it can be rewired. The same brain that once believed you weren't capable can be trained to believe you are unstoppable. The same mind that once trapped you in fear can be guided toward freedom. The key lies in awareness, becoming conscious of what you are thinking, and then making the decision to think correctly. But why should you care about this now, in this very moment? Because your life is not waiting. Time is moving. Every day you spend with the wrong thoughts is a day wasted. Every day you spend building correct thoughts is a day closer to the life you truly want. The reward of mastering your thinking is not just success. It is peace, fulfillment, and the unshakable power of knowing that nothing outside of you can control you. Stay with me until the end of this message, because I promise you this, if you listen carefully, if you take these words seriously, by the time this video is over, you will not just understand the power of correct thinking, you will feel it. You will carry it with you, and it will change the way you approach your life. And once you see the truth about your thoughts, you can never go back to the old way of living. So let me ask you again, are you ready to change the way you think? Because the moment you decide, your life begins to shift. If thoughts have the power to shape our lives, then we must also face a hard truth. The greatest enemy we fight is not outside of us. It lives inside our own minds. It is the quiet voice that whispers, "You can't do it. You're not enough. What if you fail?" This enemy does not shout. It doesn't need to. It repeats the same doubts until you start to believe them. And once you believe them, they become your reality. Think about how many dreams have died before they even had a chance to live. Not because the person lacked talent, not because they lacked opportunity, but because they allowed the enemy of negative thinking to take control. Fear stopped them before failure ever could. They convinced themselves that trying wasn't worth it, and so they never began. Psychology teaches us something powerful. The human brain is wired to focus on danger. Long ago, this instinct helped us survive, but in today's world, it often turns against us. The brain magnifies risks, it exaggerates doubts, and it holds on to painful memories far longer than victories. This is why one harsh criticism can stay in your head for years, while 100 compliments are forgotten. But here's the secret. Awareness of this enemy gives you the power to defeat it. You are not your doubts. You are not your fears. You are the one who chooses whether to feed them or to silence them. Every time you challenge a negative thought with a positive one, you weaken the enemy within. Every time you act despite fear, you take back control. The truth is simple. The mind can either be your prison or your greatest weapon. If you let the enemy within rule, you will always remain trapped. But if you master it, no outside obstacle will ever be strong enough to stop you. If the enemy within is so powerful, how does it enter our minds in the first place? The answer is silent programming. From the moment we are children, our thoughts are shaped by the voices around us. Parents, teachers, friends, society. Everyone leaves their mark. Some told you to be careful, to stay small, to avoid risks. Others may have laughed at your dreams or reminded you of your failures. Without realizing it, those voices became part of your inner voice. Most people never question this programming. They walk through life repeating the same ideas they absorbed years ago, even if those ideas are false. They say, "I'm not smart enough because someone once told them so." They believe success is for others, not for me, because they grew up surrounded by doubt. But none of those thoughts are truly theirs. They are borrowed, planted, and repeated until they feel like truth. Human psychology explains that the subconscious mind stores everything we hear and experience. It doesn't filter out lies. It doesn't delete negative words. It holds them, and over time, they influence our behavior. That is why so many people act smaller than they really are, because their subconscious has been programmed to keep them there. But here is the breakthrough. What was programmed can be reprogrammed. You are not chained to the words of your past. The same way your mind was filled with doubt, it can be filled with strength. The same way you learn to think small, you can learn to think big. The silent programming may have written the first chapters of your life, but you hold the pen now. You decide what story to write next. Correct thinking begins when you stop living on autopilot and start questioning every belief that limits you. When you do this, the silent programming loses its power. And for the first time, your mind truly becomes yours. Once you understand that your mind has been programmed, the most important step is awareness. You cannot change what you refuse to see. Many people live their entire lives blaming circumstances, never realizing that it is their own thoughts pulling the strings. They stay blind to the patterns that keep repeating. They wonder why the same failures, the same doubts, the same fears keep returning. But without awareness, the cycle never ends. Awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly you can see the obstacles, the hidden fears, the old beliefs that were controlling you. You begin to notice the words you use when you speak to yourself. You notice how quickly you expect failure instead of success. You notice how often you shrink back when you should step forward. This observation is not weakness, it is strength. Because once you see the pattern, you can break it. Psychology shows us that self-awareness activates the part of the brain responsible for growth and learning. The very act of observing your thoughts changes the way they affect you. Instead of being a prisoner to them, you become the observer, the one who decides which thoughts to keep and which to let go. The truth is, awareness is the key that unlocks transformation. Without it, you repeat the old script forever. With it, you gain the power to rewrite your story. It doesn't matter how long you've lived under the weight of wrong thinking. Change begins the moment you notice it. Awareness is the first victory over the enemy within. It is the declaration that your mind belongs to you, not to your past, not to fear, not to doubt. Once you are aware, you are no longer controlled. You are ready to take back your power. Awareness alone is not enough. Once you see the thoughts that have been holding you back, you must replace them. An empty mind will always be filled by something, and if you do not choose what goes in, the old script will return. This is why change requires not just removing doubt, but planting new, empowering beliefs that guide you forward. Think of your mind as a stage. For years, fear and self-doubt have been the actors performing the same play. Awareness is like pulling back the curtain and exposing them. But now, the stage cannot stay empty. You must invite new actors, confidence, courage, clarity to take their place. Every time a negative thought appears, replace it with one that builds you. When the voice says, "I can't," you respond, "I will find a way." When the voice says, "I'm not enough," you answer, "I'm growing stronger every day." Psychology proves the power of this practice. The brain forms new pathways every time you repeat a thought. At first, the old pathway of doubt may feel stronger, but with repetition, the new pathway of belief becomes dominant. Over time, your mind begins to accept the new script as truth. What once felt impossible begins to feel natural. This is not about ignoring reality. It is about shaping reality through the lens of strength instead of weakness. The old script was built from fear, failure, and the voices of others. The new script is built from your vision, your courage, and your decision to rise. Replacing the old script is a daily practice. It requires patience, but with every step, you transform the way your mind responds to life. The moment you commit to writing a new script, you declare that your story will no longer be written by fear, but by your own hands. When you replace the old script with new, empowering thoughts, something remarkable happens inside your brain. Science shows that the mind does not simply record reality, it creates it. Every belief you hold shapes the way your brain filters information, the way your body reacts, and even the opportunities you notice. This is the science of belief. Brain works through a system called the reticular activating system. It acts like a filter, deciding what information is important and what can be ignored. If your belief is that you are not capable, your brain will filter out opportunities and focus only on reasons to stay small. But if your belief is that you can grow, succeed, and achieve, your brain begins to notice possibilities, solutions, and doors that were always there but hidden. This is why belief is so powerful. It changes what you see, what you feel, and what you do. A person who believes in their strength will take action even in fear. A person who believes they are weak will freeze even when the path is clear. Belief is not about blind hope. It is about training your mind to align with your potential instead of your limits. Psychology also shows that repetition strengthens belief. The more often you feed your mind with empowering thoughts, the deeper those beliefs take root. This is why affirmations, visualization, and daily reflection are not empty exercises, they are rewiring the brain. Over time, the new beliefs become your default response, and the old doubts lose their grip. Correct thinking begins with belief. It is the fuel behind every action, the silent force that either pushes you forward or holds you back. Once you understand the science of belief, you no longer see it as imagination, you see it as one of the most practical, powerful tools you have to shape your life. Belief grows strongest when you learn to control the voice inside your head. For most people, this inner voice is their harshest critic. It repeats mistakes, magnifies fears, and reminds them of everything they lack. But the truth is, the words you speak to yourself matter more than the words anyone else can say. They become commands that your mind follows, and over time, they shape your identity. Imagine for a moment a leader standing before their team. If that leader constantly says, "We are weak, we cannot win, we will fail," what will happen? The team will lose confidence. They will hesitate. They will crumble under pressure. But if the leader says, "We are capable, we are strong, we will rise no matter what," that same team will fight with courage and resilience. The difference is not in their strength. It is in the words that guide them. You are both the leader and the team inside your own mind. The thoughts you speak to yourself are the instructions your body and emotions will follow. This is why you must speak to yourself like a leader. Replace harsh criticism with encouragement. Replace self-doubt with determination. Tell yourself the truth that you are capable of more than you realize, that you can learn, adapt, and rise again after every fall. Psychology confirms that self-talk directly influences performance. Athletes, entrepreneurs, and achievers across every field use this method to push beyond limits. It is not arrogance, it is mental discipline. By speaking to themselves with clarity and strength, they train their minds to act with confidence, even in uncertainty. When you speak to yourself like a leader, you stop being your own enemy and start being your own ally. You create a voice inside that leads you forward instead of pulling you back. And when the leader within you is strong, nothing outside of you can break your spirit. When your inner voice begins to guide you like a true leader, the next gift it brings is clarity. Most people are trapped in mental chaos. Too many voices, too many doubts, too many scattered thoughts pulling them in every direction. In this state, even small decisions feel overwhelming and opportunities slip away because the mind is too clouded to see clearly. Clarity is the difference between wandering aimlessly and walking with purpose. When you think correctly, confusion fades. You stop wasting energy on endless what-ifs and start focusing on what must I do now. Instead of drowning in problems, you begin to see solutions. Correct thinking cuts through the noise and allows you to direct your energy toward what truly matters. Psychology shows that the brain functions best when it has a clear target. When you know exactly what you want, your mind organizes your actions toward that goal. This is why vague wishes rarely become reality, but focused visions often do. Clarity acts like a compass. It doesn't remove the storms, but it keeps you moving in the right direction, no matter how rough the journey becomes. Think of the difference it makes. A person with a clear mind sees challenges as steps forward. A person with a chaotic mind sees them as walls too high to climb. One takes action, the other freezes. One grows, the other stays stuck. The only difference is clarity. Correct thinking is not about filling your mind with endless ideas. It is about choosing the right thoughts and letting go of the noise. It is about simplifying, focusing, and giving your energy to what truly builds your future. When your thoughts are clear, your actions become powerful, and your life begins to move with direction instead of distraction. When clarity becomes even stronger when you learn to ask the right questions. Truth is, the quality of your life often depends on the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Most people weaken their mind by asking questions that create fear. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if things go wrong? These questions only feed doubt and strengthen the enemy within, but correct thinking turns questions into fuel. Instead of asking, what if I fail? You ask, what can I learn if I fail? Instead of asking, why me? You ask, why not me? These small changes shift your mind from victimhood to strength. They force your brain to search for answers that move you forward instead of holding you back. Psychology proves this through what's called the question-behavior effect. When you ask yourself a question, your brain feels compelled to find an answer. If you ask negative questions, your brain digs for reasons to doubt. If you ask empowering questions, it looks for reasons to believe. In this way, questions become the steering wheel of your thoughts. Think about it. Every great achievement in history began with the question, what if this can be done? Or how can we make this better? Questions ignite curiosity, unlock creativity, and challenge limits. When you learn to ask empowering questions, you train your mind to see possibility where others see barriers. Correct thinking is not about having all the answers. It is about asking the kind of questions that direct your mind toward growth. Each time you shift from doubt to curiosity, you give yourself permission to see the world differently. And when your questions change, your entire future begins to change with them. The questions you ask yourself shape not only your thoughts, but also your emotions. Every emotion you feel is born from a thought, and every reaction you have begins with an interpretation in your mind. This means that by mastering your thoughts, you also gain the ability to master your emotions. Most people believe emotions are uncontrollable, like waves crashing without warning. They feel anger, fear, sadness, or frustration, and assume they have no choice but to be carried away by them. But psychology reveals something powerful. Emotions follow the meaning you give to events. Two people can face the same situation. One reacts with panic, the other with calm. The difference is not the event itself, but the thought that triggered the emotion. When you think correctly, you learn to pause before reacting. Instead of letting anger control you, you ask yourself, what is the best response in this moment? Instead of drowning in fear, you remind yourself, this is an opportunity to grow stronger. By changing the thought, you shift the emotion. And when your emotions are in your control, your actions become more powerful, more disciplined, and more aligned with your true goals. This does not mean you never feel fear or doubt again. It means those feelings no longer rule you. They become signals, not chains. Fear becomes a sign that you are stepping into growth. Frustration becomes a reminder to stay patient. Sadness becomes a teacher of strength. Each emotion is transformed when you master the thought behind it. Correct thinking gives you the freedom to rise above your emotional triggers. Instead of being a slave to every feeling, you become the one who decides. And when you control your emotions, you no longer react to life, you lead it. When you learn to master your emotions, a new door opens, the courage to think bigger than you ever have before. The mind that was once trapped by fear begins to dream of possibilities. It sees visions of what life could become if only you dared to rise. But here lies a common mistake. People dream big, yet they try to leap too far, too fast, and when they stumble, they give up. Correct thinking teaches a different path. Yes, you must think big. You must set your sights higher than your current reality and imagine a future greater than what you see today. Big visions create energy. They pull you forward. They give meaning to the struggle. But big thinking must always be balanced with small, consistent action. The mountain is climbed step by step, not in a single leap. Psychology shows that the brain feels overwhelmed when faced with huge, undefined goals. But when those goals are broken down into small, clear steps, the mind feels capable and motivated. Each small win creates momentum, and that momentum becomes unstoppable. Thinking big without starting small leads to frustration. Thinking big while starting small leads to transformation. Imagine telling yourself, I will become the strongest version of myself, and then backing it up with one disciplined habit each day. Imagine saying, I will build a better future, and then committing to one small action toward it every single morning. Over time, the small becomes powerful. The little steps add up to massive change. Thinking big gives your life vision. Starting small gives it progress. Together, they create a path that no obstacle can block. With correct thinking, you no longer choose between dreaming and doing. You learn to do both. And that is how impossible goals become inevitable victories. Big visions and small steps only stay alive when you protect your mind each day. Life has a way of distracting you, pulling you back into old habits, and filling your head with noise. That is why correct thinking requires a daily reset. Just as the body needs rest to recover, the mind needs renewal to stay clear and strong. Each morning, your thoughts set the direction for the day ahead. If you begin the day with doubt, hesitation, and fear, you carry that weight into every decision. But if you begin with clarity, strength, and determination, you carry power into every moment. The first voice you listen to in the morning often decides the quality of your entire day. Psychology teaches us that the mind is most impressionable right after waking. In that quiet space before the world rushes in, your brain absorbs deeply whatever you feed it. If you choose negativity, it shapes your mood. If you choose empowering thoughts, it sets the tone for focus and strength. This is why successful people guard their mornings. They understand the science of the reset. A daily reset does not have to be complicated. It could be a moment of silence, a powerful question, or a clear statement of who you choose to be today. What matters is that you deliberately take control of your first thoughts instead of letting old patterns control you. The reset is your reminder that yesterday's doubts do not define you. Each day is a new chance to think correctly, to start fresh, and to realign with your vision. When you commit to this practice, your mind becomes harder to shake, your focus becomes sharper, and your path forward becomes unstoppable. When you train your mind with a daily reset, you prepare yourself for the reality that life will not always move smoothly. Challenges will come, setbacks will test you, obstacles will appear in your path when you least expect them. But this is where correct thinking shows its true power, because it transforms struggle into strength and pain into progress. Most people break not because the challenge was too big, but because their thinking was too weak. They see failure as a dead end, so they stop. They see rejection as proof they are not worthy, so they give up. But correct thinking sees differently. It understands that every obstacle is not the end. It is the training ground. It is the weight that builds mental muscle, the storm that sharpens inner focus. Psychology calls this resilience, the ability to recover quickly from difficulties. And resilience is not something people are simply born with. It is built step by step by the way you choose to interpret challenges. When your mind is trained to see struggle as growth, you become unbreakable. When others quit, you rise. When others complain, you adapt. Correct thinking gives you the strength to stand tall in the middle of failure and say, "This is not the end of me. This is the making of me." It gives you the power to move forward even when the path is unclear, because you trust that each step builds your future. Resilience is not about avoiding pain. It is about refusing to let pain control you. It is about holding your vision so strongly in your mind that no temporary setback can erase it. With resilience, every defeat becomes fuel, and every hardship becomes a step toward the life you are determined to create. Resilience builds something greater than strength. It creates the unstoppable mindset. This is the point where failure no longer frightens you, where rejection no longer defines you, and where obstacles no longer make you doubt yourself. Instead of asking, "Can I overcome this?" you begin to say, "Nothing can stop me from moving forward." The unstoppable mindset is not about being fearless. It is about moving forward even when fear is present. It is not about never falling. It is about rising every single time you do. With this mindset, setbacks lose their power because you no longer see them as the end of the road. You see them as part of the road. Psychology proves that those who succeed at the highest levels are not always the most talented or the most intelligent. They are the ones who refuse to quit. Their thinking is wired for persistence. When others stop after the first failure, they keep pushing. When others give up after rejection, they try again. This relentless mindset comes from training the mind to see every experience as fuel. Correct thinking creates this unstoppable force within you. It whispers in moments of doubt, "Keep going." It reminds you when you fall, "Stand up." It pushes you when you feel tired, "One more step." And with each repetition, your mind learns that nothing can hold you down for long. When you develop the unstoppable mindset, life changes. You no longer wait for conditions to be perfect. You create progress in any condition. You no longer fear the storms. You walk through them knowing they will pass, and you no longer wonder if you will succeed. You know success is inevitable, because you will never stop until it happens. And once you have built the unstoppable mindset, the final step is to carry it into your daily life. Correct thinking is not something you practice once and forget. It must become a habit. Every morning, remind yourself of the power you hold over your thoughts. Remind yourself that no matter what happens outside of you, the way you respond is always within your control. Living with correct thinking means you stop letting negativity take root in your mind. It means you choose discipline over excuses, patience over frustration, and growth over comfort. Each day gives you opportunities to practice this. When stress comes, you remind yourself that pressure sharpens you. When failure visits, you remind yourself that it teaches you. When doubt whispers, you silence it with action. Psychology shows that repetition creates pathways in the brain. The more you practice correct thinking, the more automatic it becomes. What once felt like effort becomes natural. Instead of fighting against yourself, your mind begins to work with you. This is when your life truly transforms, because the battle within is already won. Correct thinking is not about chasing perfection. It is about staying aligned with the person you want to be, even when life challenges you. It is about holding on to clarity when the world is confusing, and holding on to hope when circumstances feel heavy. When you choose to think correctly every day, you give yourself the power to rewrite your story. You no longer wait for luck, you create opportunities, you no longer look for shortcuts, you embrace the process, and you no longer measure yourself by what others think, you measure yourself by how far you've come and how strong you've become. This is the reward of learning to think correctly, a life of focus, strength, and unshakable inner peace. And the moment you begin to live this way, nothing in the world can take that power away from you.